keen to speak to them, but didn't think that we'd get the chance. You just kind of get used to these things. And then we got the phone call. I got the phone call asking me, would I come to Coachella and speak to them. I wasn't actually even playing Coachella, so in the fact that they invited me to interview them, I got to play Coachella, which was great as well, both weekends. But there I was. I found myself heading towards Palm Springs with the car and the sand and the desert and the palm trees, and turned up round Daft Punk's house. Are you ready? There's more of this, by the way, and I'll tell you how you can hear it after we play this. So the first time anywhere in the world, the two of them speaking about their brand new album.
Tong, BBC Radio 1.
Thomas and Guy from Daft Punk. Hi.
Hello, Pete. Hello.
It's been a while. I was working this out since we probably last did an interview. It was probably 8 or 9 years ago.
At least. It might have been even 10 or 11 years ago, yes.
Random Access Memory is your first studio album since Human After All back in 2005. Why so long?
I mean, we could consider that Random Access Memories is our first studio album ever, in some sense, just because it's the first time we actually went into a studio to record a record. But the last 8 years were filled with different experiences, from going on tour for almost a year and a half or 2 years in 2006 and 2007, and then working on Tron in 2009, part of 2010. But mostly we were interested in taking the time to reinvent ourselves and see where we could go next. And we were really experimenting all these years in the studio. It was not like we started really, even though we started making the music on this record somehow, recording some demos in 2008. I think for a very long time we just wanted to experiment and see what we could do that we hadn't done before, and what was exciting. And usually it takes time, the gap between our first and second album was 4 years. Between the second and the third was another 3 or 4 years as well. So it was a little bit longer this time, but the project at the same time was more ambitious and doing certain things that we hadn't done before that took longer time to design.
Stage 2 of the Dance Music Marathon is on with Pete Tong. It's on with Pete Tong. Pete Tong. Pete Tong. It's on with Pete Tong.
I've heard the album just as a kind of fan of yours and knowing you for so long. The first thought I had sitting listening to it, it was giving me goosebumps, was that it was almost like you got to make the record you always wanted to make, maybe. Born in the 70s, it's like a homage to that period of time of your childhood. To just talk us through the process, the thought process of, how you went about making this record and why you made it in the way you made it.
Well, it's true that we've always loved and cherished a certain craft and a certain kind of records that influenced us from the time we started making music. And if you listen to around the world, for example, we've always loved Chic, Nile Rodgers, and Bernard Edwards music, but we, in some sense, this track already on Homework was a certain homage and of doing music that we really were doing in a home studio. And that's what, we come from a house music background, and that's what Chicago house music was. Chicago house kind of was born after the destruction or the collapse of disco, and it was this way of these producers, or these young producers in their basement with a drum machine and a synth, trying to make something that would look like a record that might not be a record, but in some sense we were emerged from that tradition and of working in a home studio and pretending to do a record, and so it really felt that this album was the same music that we've always done, and you're right to say it's maybe the record we always wanted to do, because it felt like we're doing the same thing, but this time we're doing it for real. There was a golden age of music making where albums were these ambitious projects and in a certain way, a certain kind of teamwork with a certain level of craftsmanship from the musicians to the engineers to the studios, and that were creating this kind of magic. And after the Tron record, where we were able to experience this teamwork with an orchestra, which was extremely exciting for us to go out of our home studio and just having worked just the two of us for so many years and being able to open up with other musicians, we felt, wow, we're really excited to maybe we could do our music like that for this record. That's you know, the Tron record somehow gave us the key of a direction that we could take, which was, you know, focusing on, as you said, like doing the same music but replacing to a certain extent the machines with the people. And really also, you know, we've always loved sampling, and we're like really wondering what was the magic in those samples, what was the magic in those little bits of life and of snippets of audio recordings that had so much sparkle.
Let's just talk about a few of the collaborators. Pharrell Williams, you produced Hypnotize You, didn't you?
We produced Hypnotize You. We've always, you know, been big fans of him as a producer, a writer and composer, and a performer. And here he totally went on board the idea of, you know, went for the ride of saying, you know, the golden age of these classic records is not over, and he really nailed it in a fantastic way for us, as being like this perfect match of being this performer in a certain tradition, but really into the future.
She's up all night to the sun. I'm up all night to get some. She's up all night for good fun. I'm up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to the sun. We're up all night to get some. We're up all night for good fun. We're up all night to get lucky. 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 We're up all night to get lucky.
With Get Lucky, what came first? You had the track with Niall, and then he came on
yeah,
the
actually, with Get Lucky, we had the track. Even without Niall, for a very long time, there was just like this you know, somehow disco groove that we had made with Omar Hakim on the drums and Nathan East on the bass. And then we added Niall. Songs were built over, you know, sometimes even in terms of recordings, about 2.5 years traveling all over the world in different studios, and each time adding a certain layer. You know, that was what was fun for Get Lucky. Once we had Niall, and Niall happened in a very same organic way, it jammed on the tracks and added these amazing chord inversions and things like that with his guitar. Then we really went back with Nathan East, which is the bass player, and we had him redo the bass line so that it would fit with Niall, and almost became like this kind of funk competition, you know, where you had this idea of really like musicians feeding
which is what they did
each
back
other,
in the day,
which is what they
absolutely.
did back in the day. And so it's true that, you know, we felt like really being able to put this environment for this magic to happen.
He says he can't remember the recording session.
He cannot.
What
yeah.
happened?
Well, it was jet lag.
He gave him something to drink or something.
If he doesn't remember the jet lag and everything, I think there was some magic that happened, you know. And so he listened to the track, we sat down, and he got really fast into the vibe and wanted to sing like really spontaneously, and everything came out in like a couple of
So he didn't
hours.
have those lyrics worked out?
No, everything. That's why he doesn't remember, because it was like so spontaneous and instant. It was just a fast sparkle of magic, and I think it channeled like some of the best soul and R&B that he's been listening to, like us, like big fans of Marvin Gaye or Stevie Wonder. Even his voice is not sounding
Curtis
the same.
Mayfield as well.
Yeah. His voice is sounding really different to me, and it was like meant to be, I guess.
You know, your videos have always been amazing. You've got your own film company, haven't you, Daft Arts? You're based at Jim Henson's lot. Is there going to be videos for this? I think, is it just the clip?
No, it's we wanted to try to experiment with formats, and we're really excited by working with the 15 seconds and 30 seconds and 60 seconds kind of extended ad.
It's like
So we felt that there was maybe a more exciting way to express something today, visually in a 1 minute format than in 3 or 4 minutes, and that seems to actually be the case to the reaction of how people, I was told, some people have been discovering the 1 minute ad and watching it like 8, 9, 10 times in a row. Usually when you see a music video, you might just watch it once or twice, so it's at the end of the day, the music on that record was inspired by some classic albums that were predating the old music video era, and the last thing we wanted to do for this record, which is quite rich musically, is to stuff it with too many visuals, and to still have, rather than still leave a certain part of imagination, let people dream about it, but have just the right amount of visuals for it to unleash their imagination to the world.
And what about remixes? Will there be? They didn't used to do remixes in the 70s.
Well, it did these kind of mixes.
But they did their edits.
We'll see. We're working on some mixes ourselves. So
it could be Daft Punk mix of Daft Punk.
Yes, there will probably be Daft Punk mixes of Daft Punk, which is something new. Usually we've never mixed ourselves, but that's something we feel we're interested of during this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Gig.
Thank you very much.